John Culhaine was walking from the bar. It was dusk, and he was pretty happy. He had drunk a few beers with his buddies, and he had this nice spring in his walk, going past the village all the way home. And it was getting late, and the missus, well, you could say she's a little bit worried about what would happen to him if he got in too late. So he decided to go through the church graveyard, through just a little bit of the forest, catch up on some time, and then be home for dinner, to his wife and his daughter Mary. And he was walking with his walking stick, feeling good about himself, thinking of the laughs and the jokes that they were passing on in that pub. And it was already twilight when he reached that graveyard. He hopped over that small brick wall, and he was going past those graves until he saw one that was freshly dug. And he said, "Strange. Well, this is new, and nobody has told me about the wake. Funny." Curiosity got him. So he decided to get closer to read the inscription on that stone. He went in. But before he could get close, he heard a big boom right from the grave. It scared the wits out of him. He got so scared that he jumped, let go of his walking stick, and dashed out. He ran through that graveyard, through that small forest, all the way home. When he was sitting down at the table and dinner was placed in front of him, he remembered, my walking stick. I forgot. His daughter, Mary, who was about 16 years old, was a very, very helpful person, very nice, with a generous heart. And she quickly said, "Daddy, I'll go for it. Where is it?" "Oh, no, something happened in the graveyard that scared me, and I must have dropped it there, but I'll get it in the morning." Before he could actually finish the word morning, Mary was up and out that door. And she was running through that small forest and into the graveyard. It was dark now. And Mary decided to go a little bit slower, It was a graveyard, and you had to respect the dead. And she saw the walking stick just a little bit further. And she went up right beside that freshly dug grave when she heard a Mary. That's strange. There's no wind. Must have been my imagination. She went a little bit closer when she heard again, Mary. This time she heard her name. She slowly got close to the freshly dug grave and started to get down until finally she heard, Mary, come. And it's as if her body was possessed, for she had no longer any command of her limbs. She slowly got down on her knees against her will, and she extended her arm down to that freshly dug dirt. But amazingly enough, when she extended her hand down, down, down even further, it went through that dirt, and all of a sudden something grabbed fast of her. It was clammy and cold. And then all of a sudden, another hand came out and grabbed her arm. And she started to feel as if something was using her as leverage to pull itself out. Little by little, the corpse, for that was what it was, started to use her to get out of that grave. That creature had grabbed possession of her body, yet not of her consciousness. She knew that this was wrong, but she had no command. She couldn't do anything. And then she felt as if those clammy arms wrapped around her neck and pulled itself completely out and pushed itself on her back. Mary could smell that rotten flesh. She looked down and saw that it was festering. Mutilated flesh dangled down. She could see the veins. And then she felt how the creature wrapped its dangling feet and legs around her waist. The creature went to her ear. The stench was unbearable, and said to her ear, "Go." Mary, who was on her knees, got up and started walking mechanically out of the graveyard. But she didn't go home. She went the other way, towards the village. She walked past the church and into the village itself. It was a small village, but very organized. Small cottages, light left and right. She walked past one house and another house. And at the third house, her body stopped. She felt how the creature leaned out and started to sniff the air. Went back to her and whispered, "Go." She kept on walking. And every 2 or 3 houses, the creature would make her stop, sniff the air, and continue onwards. A few hours went by in this. It wasn't a big town. It wasn't a big village. But it was big enough for people like Mary to take their time to go through it. Until finally curiosity got her, and she was able to ask, "What are you doing?" The creature got close to her ear. How it tickled when he breathed that stenched air into her ear while he answered, "A house with no Bible or holy water." Mary couldn't believe what she was hearing. "What? Why do you want that? Just go, said the creature. And off she went. They were almost finished. There were just a few more houses, but apparently everybody was very pious. Until finally the creature stopped and pointed to the last house on the top of a very small hill. Mary knew who it was. That was the house of the Finnegans. Her friends actually lived there. 2 boys, about the same age as her. Go. Mary got near the house. The creature leaned out, sniffed the air. Here, it said. Go in. Mary's legs went without hesitating. She got around the house and saw a window open, a window that led to the kitchen. She said to the creature, "No, they're gonna hear us. Why do you want to go in?" "Just do it," said the creature. Mary had no choice. She went inside through that window into the kitchen. There was an aga. Everything was clean, orderly. Mary got close to the table. The creature sat on one of the chairs. And the creature looked at her, an evil grin from ear to ear. He said, "Prepare me a meal." "A meal? Well, what would you like?" said Mary, thinking that it was just a meal. "How about some oatmeal?" Mary's body started to search for the oatmeal in the cupboards. She rekindled the fire in the aga, set one of the pans, and prepared the oatmeal. She set it, to cool down, and the creature beckoned her to come, again wrapping itself on Mary as a piggyback. She led Mary through the house and up the stairs. Mary, unable to do anything, was obeying the creature, and her hand extended when she passed through one of the bathrooms. There was a knife there, just a shaving knife. The creature had her grab that knife and grab a bowl that was near. She started to panic because what was she going to do with these? Slowly, her body went near the bedroom of the 2 boys. "Go in," said the creature. "I can't. They'll hear me." "No. I've set a spell on this place. No one can hear us. Go in." Compelled to do so, Mary went in. She saw the boys, her friends, just sleeping. "Cut the finger of the first one." "No, even better. Cut 2. Mary approached the first of the boys, put the bowl underneath the finger, and slit 2 fingers. Blood started to seep out. She caught it. And once the bleeding stopped, it was fairly abundant, the boy stopped breathing. She went to the second one, trembling, trying not to do what the creature had ordered her to do. She couldn't stop herself, and she slit another 2 fingers of her second friend. Blood came out. She caught the blood. And once the bleeding stopped, she noticed how her friend stopped breathing. She went down to the kitchen. The creature again sat on the chair. Pour it in. Mary poured the blood inside that oatmeal, mixed it. Set it in 2 bowls, said the creature. She set it in 2 bowls. She set those 2 bowls in front of the dead man, and the dead man pushed one of them in front of her. He said, "You can eat it." And with such a hunger, the corpse started to ravage in that bloody oatmeal, completely concentrated. Mary's hand trembled as she grabbed that spoon, trying with all her might to stop herself from eating that bloody porridge. The spoon was dipped inside, and slowly it started getting near her mouth. But she tried and tried and tried, and finally she was able to pour that porridge on a scarf that she had on. Spoonful by spoonful, she was able to eat that bloody porridge, but it was all contained in that scarf. When finally she finished, said, "I'm done. Can I clean up now?" So she started to clean up everything. And stealthily, without the creature noticing, she was able to take off that scarf very carefully, put it on the counter, and hide it. She put everything away as if nothing had happened. The creature got on her back, went out the window with her, and started to go back to the grave. Dawn was approaching. Mary knew that, but she didn't want to say anything. Perhaps with dawn, this nightmare would stop. She was walking past a certain abandoned land. While she looked past, the creature looked at what she was seeing. He pointed the finger and laughed in her ear. "You know what that is?" "Yes, that's Dead Man's Land." "Why do you ask?" "Everybody knows that." "Yes, it is Dead Man's Land because it's my land. And there's a great treasure down there. Nobody knows of it. Oh, except you now, but we'll see how to remedy that. We haunt that stuff. We haunt that land so that nobody can take our treasure." "Why are you telling me all this? I can go back and dig it up," said Mary. The creature started to wiggle his nose at her ear and said, "Are you sure?" They were almost at the graveyard. They were passing the church when all of a sudden they heard a noise. The noise of a creature that sings right before dawn, that both you and I know. The creature jumped, scared. "What was that?" it said. "Nothing. It must have been a lamb who is starting to wake up." "Hurry," said the corpse. And Mary's body started going faster. She was going faster and faster until again the cock crowed a second time. "It's almost dawn. Come." They got to the fresh grave. The creature got off her back. Using her again as leverage, it pushed himself down, dangling. And when Mary thought that he was going to let go, all of a sudden she started to feel how the creature was pulling her in. "You're coming with me," said the creature. And he started to pull and pull and pull. Mary tried with all her might to not be sucked into that graveyard. When all of a sudden the cock crowed a third time and dawn broke. And as if by magic, the possession she was under broke. The creature was again inside the grave. Mary fell back, shaken to the core. She grabbed her father's walking stick and she ran home. She put the walking stick near the door. She ran up to her room, slammed the door, and fell on her bed. She was exhausted. And very soon, she fell asleep. It was the afternoon when her mother knocked softly on the door. "Mary, Mary, are you awake?" Said Mary. "I'm sorry, Mother. I've been up all night," said Mary. "Come. I have grave news. The Finnegan boys, they were found dead." Mary knew what had happened. But she also knew the remedy. Because before the creature had left that place, he had whispered in her ear, "Those boys will die. But the only thing that could wake them up is blood poured on their lips. Blood that we have eaten." Thankfully, she had retained this information. She got up, got dressed, and went to the wake. The house was full. The parents of the Finnegan boys were absolutely destitute, in pain. I can't even explain, for no parent should outlive their child. Mary went up to Mrs. Finnegan and said, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry about all this. But what if they're not dead?" Mrs. Finnegan looked at her with red eyes and said, "They're not breathing. How could they not be dead?" Mary said, well, there may be a remedy, but I would have to ask you something in return. If you can give me my boys, our boys, we'll do anything, said Mrs. Finnegan. You know Dead Man's Land? You know, just outside the village? Yes. If you can convince the people to give me that land, would you do it? If you can bring my boys back, said the mother, I'll do anything. So Mary, very quietly, went to the kitchen. She did grab the scarf full of bloody porridge. She went upstairs, looked at the boys. They were indeed pale, ready to die. She grabbed a little bit of that bloody porridge and poured it over the lips of the first one. And when that blood touched those lips, it seeped inside the skin, and color returned. And all of a sudden, the boy breathed in and started to breathe normally. Mary went to the second one, did the same, and the same reaction. A few moments later, the two boys opened their eyes as if they had been dreaming. What had happened? Why is everybody like this? They asked him. Mary brought in the parents, and they were absolutely overjoyed. Could Mary tell them the truth? She didn't know. At least for now. They did question her as to how she knew that the boys weren't dead, but she wouldn't say. As promised, the Finnegans were able to convince the villagers to give Mary Dead Man's Land. She went, dug up that treasure, brought it home, presented it to her own parents, who were overjoyed. For even though they weren't that poor, well, let's just say they could be better off. But Mary did warn everybody. And this warning extends to you. If you don't want corpse walking through your house, it's best to have a Bible and maybe a little bit of holy water now and then. Because who knows? Same thing might happen to you.